and welcome for the session. My name is Prabhu and I'm from MASH Project. And I welcome you all for this first session of Beginner's Guide to Entrepreneurship series. I have with me Megha and Yashveer, who are both from Leap Skills and Ashoka. And we are very excited to bring this conversation for you all on what makes an entrepreneur, what are the skills of this 21st century that, we get to listen very now and often, but how can we go to the depth of it and how can we build it? And since we have more and more people joining us at the moment, so please use the chat window, share with us which city are you from or what are you currently doing. Also, if you have any question that you want us to cover in the conversation, please feel free to put it up in the chat window or in the Q&A section. So we will try and take those questions in between our conversations also. And towards the end, we also have a question and answer round where you can also ask your question directly to the panelists. So we'll just wait for just 2 more minutes and then we'll quickly roll out. But in the meanwhile, I'm really looking forward to know where are you all joining us from. So yeah. So okay, so we have Ashna who's joining us from Gujarat. Montu is doing a fellowship with Gandhi Fellowship. That's great, Montu. I have a lot of friends who are Gandhi Fellows. Rishu is joining us here from Gurgaon. So yeah, we have people from different parts of the country, and I think we also have our audience who's listening to us live on the Atal Innovation Mission's YouTube handle. So a very warm welcome to all of you. And if you have any questions for us for the session today, please feel free to use the comment section. Our team will pick up those questions and we'll try and cover in our conversation. Um, I just because we have more people who just joined us. So for a quick introduction, my name is Prabhu and I lead the MASH Project Foundation in India. We work a lot with youth changemakers like you all. And I have today my colleague Megha and Yashveer. So Megha is from Leap Skills and Yashveer is from Ashoka. And we will try to bring as much relevant points and takeaways for you for the session today as we can. But just to give you a brief introduction about the whole event. So basically, this whole initiative is by UNDP Youth Collab. So it's a global innovation challenge that UNDP runs in 25 countries for youth between the age of 18 to 30 who are working on social innovation and are trying to solve social problems with the sense of sustainability. Youth Collab was launched in India in partnership with Atal Innovation Mission of the Niti Aayog. And this year's theme has been Build Back Better, where we've just closed our applications on 5 major thematic focus areas, which includes climate change, gender equality, mental health, access, and education and skill development. But we do have a lot of more opportunities and programs that will keep coming your way. Right now, since the applications are closed, so the shortlisted teams are competing against each other. But at the very same time, we want to celebrate the whole spirit of social entrepreneurship. So we are doing this national dialogue as a part of Youth Collab, where we are trying to bring this series of beginner's guide to entrepreneurship for all of you. So we have 3 days, 3 sessions, and each session is a fundamental aspect of how can you, from identifying a problem, how can you start your own social enterprise, and if you're already running your own social enterprise, how can you really take it forward? But because we wanted to begin this first session with skills, because we have been getting to know a lot from the youth that there's a lot of intent to do more when it comes to using social innovation. But many times we feel sometimes, without many opportunities around us, we feel limited, and we feel that what skills do can we really inculcate, or what do we really need? So this conversation is for you to understand that what are some of these skill sets of the 21st century that you can learn and you can practice and you can continue to hone in this whole journey of you as an aspiring social entrepreneur or as an entrepreneur. So that's the whole session and evening today about. And quickly moving to introduce our 2 panelists with us for the day. So I have Megha from Leap Skills. So Megha is a serial social entrepreneur, and Megha, in fact, has been running 3 social enterprises. She, has she has been she's an alumni of uh, London School of Economics and Political Science, and after a brief career there, she felt like coming back to India and working on the education and skills development for youth. And that's where she started Leap Skills, which works on basically upskilling youth to make them more employable. Uh, So, welcome, Megha, for the session, and really looking forward to your insights and inputs today. Um,
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yes. And I also have Mr. Yashveer, who is the global director and co founded Ashoka Young Changemakers program, where Yashveer looks after scouting young talent like you all who are making a difference with your social innovation around the world, and seeing that how can Ashoka support these young changemakers. So Ashoka in fact is the one of the world's largest network of social entrepreneurs and young social entrepreneurs. So Yashveer has been leading the entire vertical. But other than that, Yashveer also has been an alumni of Oxford's Said Business School, and where he's done a lot of work around promoting social entrepreneurship and innovation. And prior to that, coming back to India before Ashoka, Yashveer has also spent good amount of time on working on grassroots innovation with youth. So a very warm welcome to you, Yashveer sir, and very looking for happy to have you join and looking forward to learn more about both of yours insights and experiences from the day to day.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu. Looking forward to the conversation.
Great. So, like I said, we'll just to help you set a little bit of the context for the day. We're using this as a Zoom webinar platform. So you have a Q&A section on the bottom of your screen and a chat window. So at any point of time, if you have any question or if you need any support, feel free to share it with us in the chat window. We will try and pick it up, and my team will assist you with that. For audience who are joining us from the YouTube live, please feel free to use the comment section for anything that you may need, and we'll try and make sure that we cover your points and questions and give you the assistance. So yeah, now rolling on to the conversation. So Yashveer, we would love to know from you a little bit about your work and what you've been doing with Ashoka, and how are you supporting young innovators and change makers. And then we'll come to you, Megha, for that.
Sure. Thank you, and good evening, everyone. I'm really excited to look at all the diversity of attendees on this conversation. Um, uh, I think I sense that almost all parts or all different states of India, I think people are represented from north to south to west to east. So really happy to see such a diverse group, and my congratulations to UNDP Youth Collab for putting together something like this. I think India, as we all know, I think we keep talking about we are a young country, and we have a huge population of young people who I think if have the right mindset, right skill sets, can really not just take India forward, but guide and lead the whole world in many different ways and forms. Coming to my introduction and what we do at Ashoka. So Ashoka is a 40-year-old institution, famously known for coining the word social entrepreneurship. In 1980, when our founder, Mr. Bill Drayton, started, he was looking for individuals who have changed systems and who have really big ideas to solve some of complex and challenging problems in the society. Since then, I think we have been scouting these social entrepreneurs, supporting them through our core program called Ashoka Fellowship. And not just limiting to that, but also learning from the journeys of these social entrepreneurs, the insights, and really feeding those insights back to the ecosystem on different issues, different challenges. And that's where we work with a lot of partners, a lot of institutions who we feel can benefit from some of these insights, which these social entrepreneurs are continuously learning from the ground and from different parts, not just in India, but across the world. So just today, I think in the context of today's conversation, one of our main insights of working with these social entrepreneurs was that most of them started very early on in life, and they either launched their initiatives or they were solving a problem in their school or a community level, but they were changing something around them. And this was the case not just with a small proportion, but majority of our social entrepreneurs who we elected as Ashoka Fellows. And what we saw patterns. So the patterns was, one, they were starting young, but when we went one layer deep, we also saw that in that starting up experience, in that launching of initiatives experience, what they were essentially doing was they were building certain skills, certain abilities, right? And I think that's very relevant for today's conversation also, because in some sense those skills which a social entrepreneur has are the ones, I think, which any entrepreneurial endeavor would need, right? So whether you are running a tech company or a social venture, essentially the mindset and the skill set is the same. And one of the main, I think, insights there was that most of these social entrepreneurs built an agency inside them that they can change things, right? And they had that I can attitude, that I can change things around me, and they will not wait for others to come and solve problems for them. And when you analyze that agency, that attitude, that mindset, essentially what we found was there were few skills which were the highlights. One was, I think most of them were building the skill of empathy at a very young age. Now empathy sometimes get talked very loosely as well, but what we saw was that this is a empathy which they were developing at a very cognitive level, which meant that it is not just, I think, sympathizing with the situation, but you really understand the context, the environment in which you are working. Now once you have empathy as a skill, then you of course want to use it in action, which essentially means you'll be forming a team. So teamwork becomes a very important skill. You'll be creatively finding solutions, so creative problem solving. And in the end, you also want to collaborate with various stakeholders. So in effect, what Ashoka came out with is, we said that we want a world where everyone needs to have these 4 5 skills which every social entrepreneur has, and we termed them as change maker skills, right? So essentially they help you build the ability to make change happen around you in whatever context. You need not have to be a social entrepreneur, an entrepreneur. But I think what we are seeing, and my guess is, I think we'll be talking a little later in the day, that how these are skills are becoming relevant for anyone and everyone. So I saw in the introduction, someone is a theater artist, someone is working on technology. You cannot thrive if you do not have built these skills, or you have not practiced them over and over again. So like any skill, any mindset in life, I think change maker mindset also is something which you built through practice, and that's what we have learned. And that's what I think what we do is, when we elect these young change makers, in our case I think we focus specifically on teenagers, because the younger you build those skills and mindset, the higher are the chances of you applying them for your rest of your life. And through these young change makers, what we try to do is we try to influence the ecosystem around them, because a lot of times what we do in our lives is also a factor of what is being demanded in the ecosystem around us, right? How is an educational institute defining what success in growing up looks like? How are our parents guiding us or supporting us? So for us, finding these young change makers has two parts to it. One, of course, supporting them in their journey of being a change maker, but more importantly, and which is something very important, is how can they give the larger message that everyone needs to be a change maker for the good of the society and for good of themselves as well. So that's largely my work. I can go on and on. I'm very passionate about this work, but I'll pause here because I know we also have limited time. So back to you, Prabhu.
Thanks, Ishveer, for helping us understand. And of course, we have a lot to cover today, so we'll try and keep it crisp. Megha, coming to you, we would love to know a little bit about what kind of work you do and how are you supporting young change makers with skills.
Sure. Um, First off, Yashveer, love the work you guys are doing. Always been a big fan of Ashoka. So I'm glad that we're getting a chance to talk to all you amazing young entrepreneurs or young people out there. I won't take much time to give you a little bit of context. Um, I lived and studied abroad for about 10 years. Had a chance to study at some of the best institutions globally. Yashveer and I have that in common. We studied at Oxford, went on to study at LSE. And I think, started a job there and began to realize very quickly that in a lot of developing countries, in a lot of countries like ours, our opportunities are often defined by where we are born. And I believe firmly that opportunity should not be a function of where you're born. It should be one of how willing you are to work hard for something, how big your dreams are, and how you are able to get up every day and make one small step towards that dream every day. And that's the motivation and the mission behind my first social enterprise, Leap Skills. my co-founder Ankit and I started this in 2013. And the idea behind moving back to India and starting this company for me was exactly this. Can we create an India where every young person, like all of you, from Jodhpur, from Assam, from Bangladesh, from, I don't even know where all you guys are from. I noticed somebody from Bangladesh as well, Kanpur, Bombay, I mean, everywhere. As long as you're willing to work hard for something, and as long as you believe you'll pull it off, the world should be open for you. And that's what Leap Skills Motivation is. We've worked with about 50,000 young people in the last 7 years. And we have had some huge successes, but we have had many more big failures. So maybe what I can do is share some of my learnings as we go along about some of the mistakes you shouldn't make, because we've made them already. And yeah, learn from our mistakes and move forward on that. So I think with that, Prabhu, I'll hand it over to you so we can actually get right into the conversation.
Yes. Thanks, Megha. And I think very moving to know how you've kind of transitioned, especially, having spent time abroad, coming back here and starting something. I have completely opposite journey than both of you. I
Yeah.
came from a different city. So I think we have good diversity perspectives around that. And Megha, I'm getting a lot of these questions right now, and I can see that people are very curious. So I'll directly jump on to some of the questions that I'm getting. So the first question that I'm getting is that how exactly do you define a social entrepreneur, and how are they different? What are the skills that what are some of these skills that one needs to kind of have to become social entrepreneur? That's what Nilesh asks us. So we'd love to know your take, Yashveer, on it, and Megha, then we'll see if there's something that you'd like to add to it. So yeah.
I think maybe if you want to go first, maybe I can give maybe more broader one. It will be great to hear
Sure.
your. Yeah.
So feel free to pick
Sure.
up if anyone of you wants to answer. We'll try to make it free flowing as a conversation. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't have much in the way of gyan to give you guys, yeah, but what I can tell you is that a social entrepreneur is like any other entrepreneur. I think everything that any entrepreneur is also necessary in a social entrepreneur. Maybe, I guess, a couple of things that come into my mind about how I would define one is that one, you always have some sort of a major mission or a problem you're trying to solve. You have seen something that you don't like about the world you live in, and you want to go solve that problem. And like Yashveer was saying, you don't believe that somebody else will come and solve that problem for you. So you just get up and you're willing to make your life around solving that problem. So I think mission and feeling strongly about the problem at hand, and being willing to change the direction of your life to solve that problem, in my mind, is really what a social entrepreneur is. And yeah, maybe that's how I would define one.
All right, Megha. And Yashveer, what's your take on it? Yeah.
So I can just add, I think Megha was spot on in that. So one is, of course, the mission, and what we are seeing by looking at so many social entrepreneurs is, so once you have that big mission, big uh, uh, goal in your mind, then you also have an idea to achieve that, right? And sometimes I think what defines a social entrepreneurs in our case is the uniqueness of the idea, because those problems have been existing from last many years, or in some cases many centuries, right? But who has that idea which is innovative, which is new, which is fresh, is one of the common skills or patterns which we see in all the social entrepreneurs. Second is, like any entrepreneur, a social entrepreneur also needs to have the entrepreneurial ability, because we use the word entrepreneur, but the word entrepreneur itself has a lot of layers to it, which means, are you able to persuade people to come join your team? Are you able to get that first supporter who can back you, whether you are a not-for-profit or a social or a social business? So that ability to generate support and persuasion is, I think, second skill or second ability most of these social entrepreneurs have. Thirdly, I think they are very resilient and creative, because any entrepreneurial journey, and more so the social entrepreneurial journey, is going to have thousands of challenges on the way. And if you aren't creative about them, then one way or the other, I think you will struggle to really address the challenge, or get a better of of that problem. So I think being creative, being resilient is another, I think, skill. And the fourth bit, I think, which is very important is that most of the time these social entrepreneurs are very good with building collaborative network effect, which means how do they get support wherever. So I think, in a sense, if I have to define, it's like they can seek help where needed, and they can offer help where they feel that anyone can benefit from them. So that kind of collaborative attitude is also one of the virtues or skills, at least we see more in social entrepreneurs, because the resources are always constrained. You have to do a lot in limited amount. So if you do not leverage a lot of these collaborations, a lot of these network effects, then sometimes you will feel limited. And that's where I think they again are very smart, and they use that skill, and over a period of time they build it and get better at it.
Right. And I think very valid point, Ashwir. And while you were sharing about resiliency and, leveraging that network, I could recall that how, we at MASH have been able to survive this year because of some of these skills that our team members brought together. This has been one difficulty of all, but because of relationships we've built and the resilience that everyone has put together, I think we just get that drive to keep striving harder. So I completely agree with you and Megha on that. And I think what we are also getting to hear here is that many of the youth participants, they were sharing with us that we there's every all of us see a lot of problems around us, and at times we want to work towards it. But being a social entrepreneur, we hear that you need to have an entrepreneurial mindset, as such. But we want to know that how can we really cultivate that kind of a mindset, and how can someone really, like, what exactly is entrepreneurial mindset and how can someone develop that? We'd love to know a bit about that.
Maybe I can take a stab at that. We do this for a living. It's interesting, I mean, we hear of so many skills. Today, just as a small thought experiment before I came to talk to you guys, I actually asked my entire team, who I believe is full of mini entrepreneurs, what 3 skills would they believe are the most important, when it comes to defining what an entrepreneurial mindset is. And I can promise you that I had a range of things, right? And I'm reading out some of the things my team said, ranging from something like courage to creative problem solving, to networking, to understanding and keeping abreast of latest technology, to grit, resilience, result orientation, collaboration, self-awareness. There were so many things that came up. But if I had to pick, say, the 3 or 4 things that we believe and have solid data to support, that really define what I think an entrepreneur needs, are one, something which I think everybody is talking about around grit and resilience. You have to be comfortable with failing. You have to be comfortable with getting up the next day and attacking the problem again, knowing fully well that there is a 50% chance that you will fail at what you're doing today. And that belief in what you're doing just has to come from within. So I would tell you, the first thing is, don't be afraid of failure and figure out a way to be gritty and resilient. The second is cognitive flexibility. Now, this is a very fancy sounding term, but basically all it means is that you have to be able to creatively solve problems, which means you have to hold more than one idea in your head at any given point of time. You need to be able to look at things from different perspectives and find solutions to the different problems, because I can promise you, as an entrepreneur, there will be a new problem you will have to handle and make a decision about every damn day. And that's just a reality. The third is result orientation and outcome orientation, which is get shit done. You just have to get things done. There is no job which is too big or too small. You have to hustle. You have to get things done. And the fourth, which I think Yashveer also brought out beautifully, is collaboration. How do you work with people? How do you make sure that you can motivate people along with you to work with you, but also bring out the best in your colleagues in your team, right? And in order to do that, you have to find your own inner voice for being able to really work collaboratively with people. So in my opinion, these are the 4 things that all our data, and like I said, we worked with over 50,000 people now, shows that these, if you are able to just crack these 3 or 4 skills, I mean, they really go a very long way in aiding you. And I believe all of these can be developed. So maybe, Prabhu, at a later point when we talk more tangibly about how to develop them, we can talk about some of that as well.
Yes, Megha, and I think we will definitely come to that part. I think those are extremely important. Um, Ishvi, do you have any uh, points to add to it? Um, what just Megha shared?
No, I think Megha covered it, most of it, and uh, just one thing to echo with what Megha was saying. The larger question which you asked, Prabhu, is how do you become more entrepreneurial, right? Or how do you develop that mindset? I think the same question we all have been hearing since growing up. How do you get better at maths? How do you get better at, say, English, right? Or writing or debating or any of the skills, right? So the answer, at least what I heard from my teachers, or still I think I believe is true, is by practicing it. Right? It's as simple as that. So I think what I also feel is that we as a country and we as a society are just building or beginning to understand the importance of entrepreneurial ability. But it doesn't mean that it has not existed, right? Societies, Indian societies, most of the times they talk about innovation and jugaad and so on and so forth. Those are some of the elements of the entrepreneurial ability. But the simple answer of how do you get better at it, you just get better at it by doing it more and more. So I was talking about our own social entrepreneurs starting very young, but as a homework to the audience, I would suggest you all the entrepreneurs you admire, right? Ranging from very famous and big ones to ones who are doing great work but might not be as well known. If you read their biographies, if you read their life stories, they were all trying and building some certain things. I think in the Western world, where most of the times they say that they started their first venture at the age of 15 out of garage, right? Maybe India as a society do not have so much space for garages yet, but there are other ways by which we can build. And the good news for all of us is there is no dearth of problems, right? So there are so many problems at starting from the residential society where we live, to outside the society, to the schools, to community. Everyone is talking about problems. So then it's very easy for us to pick one problem and say, I'm going to change, right? And I think there are very three, maybe we can talk a little later about it, but I think there are just three steps around. Then how do you start on that journey? Once you see that problem, that gap, you come out with an idea. What is your idea to solve that, right? Once you have an idea, and ideas are as good as how well they are executed. The second bit is the team. That once you have a idea which you believe in, can you attract other people to join it, right? And once you start getting that kind of support from people joining, supporting, doing different things, that again gives you a confidence that yes, we are going to change. And third is, I think, realizing small little impacts. So I think entrepreneurs get that adrenaline rush a lot of times in seeing that they have changed something, right? And their change could be either change in their pocket money, or change in their bank balance, or it could be change in solving a problem, or supporting someone's life. So whatever the change you wish to achieve, once you see that happening, that gives you that power, that gives you that confidence and the courage which Megha was talking about, right? And once you start small, get that courage, then you will take on the next challenge and you just get better at it, right? So I think being entrepreneurial mindset is no rocket science. And I would also like to respond to one of the questions I think Shri has asked, that doesn't entrepreneurial skills come naturally to a person? At least in my experience, no. Because what we have seen is, most of the time when we are seeing the patterns, the science behind it is they have started learning that skill early on. Today a lot of even in sports we say, hey, Virat Kohli is very good at it, or Dhoni is good at it, right? No one is looking at the fact they started playing at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? Can you have the same level of skill set in a Virat Kohli if he would have started playing at the age of 20, right? Maybe not. Who knows? So I think one of the advantages, or one of the points which we miss in entrepreneurs is that they are building these skills, sometimes consciously, but sometimes just by accident, because they were just driven and passionate about that, right? So now I think the whole effort of this conversation and us as a country is, how can we do it more consciously? How can we create those spaces where people are talking about it, realizing that it is as important as learning a computer growing up, right? Because even the computer jobs are going to need entrepreneurial skills in the coming time, and that's what we are seeing currently also, that you need those skills, not just being an entrepreneur, but like Megha was saying, every founder today wants to hire entrepreneurial people, right? So if you are not thinking, if you are not a problem solver, if you are not continuously looking out for solutions and finding and building those solutions, then even in your jobs, you're not going to thrive. So I think, again, I've spoken more than required, but I would just say that you build these skills just by practicing it, doing it again and again, and not worrying about whether your first endeavor was successful or not. And that's what I think part of it Megha touched. But yeah, I just wanted to share this.
Thanks, Yashveer. And I think you mentioned a very relevant point that on this whole entrepreneurial skill and mindset and spirit is not just needed for one who starts an enterprise or an initiative, but like nowadays everyone's looking for it. In fact, we at Mash also, when we ask people, come join us, work with us, we look for people who bring that sense of ownership, who bring that sense of spirit that can drive us also sometimes. And so I think spot on, and I agree with you on that. And I think both of you have beautifully given us some talking points on what are these skills and why they are important. But now I'd like to understand a little bit more about the how part of it, because I remember I am also conscious that we have a Q&A section at the end as well. So we'd love to know from you both some of the skills that you've mentioned today. If you could give us some tips or some practical steps or avenues through which we can continuously work on those, that is something I think a lot of people today would be very interested, and that's what I was getting to hear when we were talking to the youth before this session. So Megha, we'd love to know a bit about areas you've mentioned just a while back, and then we'll come to you, Yashveer.
Sure. Some interesting things which I feel Yashveer also pointed out. The first thing is you have to believe that you can develop these skills. We are not born with them. I can tell you that when I came back and I started this organization, I was really focused on the problem at hand and my beneficiary and my students. But my God, over the last 7 years, I have had to do everything. Starting from sitting in a tiny printer and making sure that your first pamphlets, your first business cards are made, to then going all over the world and talking about the company with some of the biggest leaders everywhere, right? I mean, everything is yours. So you just have to believe that you will learn on the job, and there'll be 1 million things that you don't know. And you'll feel overwhelmed and you feel like you can't do it, but you have to believe that you can do it and start learning, which means the process of continuous learning is absolutely critical to achieve anything. So maybe 2-3 things that I can think of immediately that each of us can do, and maybe all of you can start doing this. The first is find mentors. Now, everybody says that, but what does that mean? In my mind, a mentor is somebody who is a little older than you are, with a little more life experience, has potentially the ability. I think there are 3 things that a mentor I would look for in a mentor. One, that they should have the time to give you. So maybe an hour in a week, they should be willing to invest in you. 2, they should genuinely care about your success, which means that they either really care about the problem at hand or they really care about you and really want you to succeed. The third is that they should have the ability to be brutally honest with you, which means that if you are talking rubbish, they will tell you that you are talking rubbish, but not with the intent of making you feel bad, but with the intent of saying that, hey, I believe in you already. These are 10 things you can do differently and better. So I think the first thing I would encourage all of you to do is identify 1 or 2 mentors that you could each work with. And these are all things we can do sitting at home. So maybe it's somebody you've worked with, maybe it's a colleague, maybe it's a family member, it could be a friend. But I would very strongly encourage you to look for a mentor. I think the second thing is that, as entrepreneurs, sometimes because it's everything, like I said, we all get worried that, my God, can I actually do everything? And I have to be good at everything. And I think that's the biggest mistake one makes as an entrepreneur, this belief that I can do everything. I think you have to be very self-aware, which means do a proper exercise to identify your strengths. What are you good at? What are the things you enjoy? What are the things you thrive on? The second is, what are the gaps? What are the things you don't know how to do, but you think if you put your mind to it, you can learn very quickly? And third are the things potentially that you're not good at. You've never enjoyed it. Like Yashveer was saying, like some people that talk about learning math their whole life, right? Maybe you don't know and like math despite the fact that you've practiced it. And I think that's perfectly all right. So identify all these skills, your range, your strengths, your weaknesses, and then build a team which complements you. Build a team where the people who you hire are better at some things than you are, so you continue to learn. And together as a team, you will be stronger than your strength as an entrepreneur alone. So I think that exercise of deep introspection and figuring out कि आप क्या अच्छा करते हो और आप क्या अच्छा नहीं करते हो is absolutely critical in even developing as the first step any of these. And the third thing that I think strikes me, and I'll stop there and pass it over to Yashveer, is that you have to tell your story. As an entrepreneur, it's critical. You have to tell your story, whether that's to an investor, whether that's then to your customers or to your team or to your beneficiaries. You're always telling your story. And in the first few months, you have nothing but your story because you don't have customer testimonials, right? You only have your story. And in order to do that, you have to find a way to communicate that story. And what I mean by that is, आप अपनी story अपने words में कैसे बोलोगे, because nobody else can speak it the way you can, right? So look up companies or social entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs, look up their social media handles, see how they communicate with the world, and start developing your own unique storytelling methods. Because unless you can tell your story, nobody else can do it for you. It's your story as an entrepreneur. So maybe these three tangible things, Prabhu, I can come up with immediately that we can all get started on.
Yes, Megha, and I think I couldn't agree more. And in fact, the moment you mentioned mentorship, it reminded me of 6 years back when I was writing to, almost everyone I knew around that, hey, would you guide me in this and that? And, I almost ended up writing to almost 50 people, and all I got as a response was 4 people out of them. Initially I felt like, oh, maybe this is something that I may not be able to get. But then out of those 4 people, they genuinely wanted to support. And the kind of value I got from there, even till this date, is something that helps me, in whatever am I doing today. So I think I
Yeah.
couldn't agree with you on
Yeah,
that.
I
And in
don't think
fact,
I could have done anything without my mentors. I think they have
yes,
just been pillars for me. On bad days, I've gone and cried in front of them. So everything works.
yes. And, for all of you who are looking for this kind of mentorship support as well, and if you're finding it difficult to find mentors, Youth Collab is one such program where you get that. And, you can reach out to all of us here who are present as well, and we would be very happy and glad to support you. But not taking much time now, Yashvi, because I'm waiting to hear from you that what are some of these, what are some of your tips and suggestions through which we can kind of, build these skills or work on these skills. Over to you.
Sure. So I think a lot has been already said, but what I can think of, and I talk to a lot of young people at different stages of their entrepreneurial journey. So one of the things, whether it's mentorship, whether it's building a team, whether it's asking for support, one common thread which is very important is that people can only help you if you know how or what kind of help do you need, right? And what that means is, for instance, the entrepreneurial journey starts from the fact. So there are a lot of young people who come to us and say, "Hey, we want to really do something in climate change," right? And then I think the next question is, of course, okay, what is it and what is the idea and so on and so forth. So there are different stages at which people would have thought through. So the beauty of this whole internet is that a lot of this information and knowledge is already there. So this conversation may not be the first conversation on entrepreneurship, and this will not be the last conversation on entrepreneurship, right? There are already so much of knowledge, wisdom by entrepreneurs ranging from who have changed millions of lives to entrepreneurs who have built multi-business, multi-dollar business in their multi-million dollar businesses in their lives. I think that will be there on the internet. So one, of course, you start with that inspiration, that what is it which really drives these individuals, right? What is it, what was their mindset, how were they thinking in the beginning, and so on and so forth. Second step is, of course, coming out with your idea with more clarity, because saying that I want to change something, I want to do something is a good step to begin, but you need to move beyond that. So what is it which you want to do, right? And it might happen that in the first attempt you might not come out with the best idea, but as long as you have an idea that this is what I want to do, and you go with, then on the internet search because again, the likelihood that the same idea or a similar idea in some part of the world would have been tried is very high, right? And what is easy is I keep suggesting a lot of our young change makers in India to connect to, say, young change makers in some of other parts of the world, whether it's Africa, Brazil, or United States, right? Because the good news is some of these ideas could have been tried by someone else. They might have learned what works. They might have learned what works in their context. So you would want to learn from their mistakes, and you want to prepare yourself better, right? Because that's also your homework to get ready to your ask. So after kind of maybe going through the internet, and my assumption is all the people who are there on this Zoom have a device and an internet connection so that they can search. Spend some time on looking for what are the similar ideas, who is doing. Can you write to them an email? And a lot of times we hesitate thinking, oh, someone is busy and someone is big, right? But you will be surprised when your ask is very specific, saying, this is my idea, I want to do in this part of India or Bangladesh or whichever country you belong to. People do want to support. People do want to at least give time to hear your ideas and give you some basic inputs on, if they can't help, then who should you be connected to, right? So try to connect those dots as much as possible. And another, I think, thing, because we touched upon the mentorship piece a lot. So at least one of the things which I have learned by working with these young change makers, and they share their stories of who's the mentor who really helped them and where it didn't work out. Most of the time, the mentorships where it works is where the person who has slightly more experience acts as an ally, right? Because if you have researched your idea well, if you believe that your idea is unique in some sense, then there could be a probability that your mentor might not have attempted to build the same idea. They might give you basic inputs and some knowledge around how was their journey or what helped them. But then every entrepreneurial journey is also different, right? It will not be that it'll be just a carbon copy of what they did, how they did, and so on and so forth, because your idea is different, your stakeholders could be different, and how do you work with your community could be entirely different. So my sense is, look at that mentorship also as an alliance, right? And not a top down knowledge transfer, because that could be even more toxic. What if the mentor tries to push his or her ideas, saying, okay, this is the only way? And I've heard stories of such mentors saying, oh, if you don't do this way, you are going to fail, right? And I think what you need to do is, there I think you need to politely just ignore, because you in some sense could be building something which they have not tried, right? And that's you're going to, and I'm sure there are a lot of these successful entrepreneurs or social entrepreneurs, and not lot, but most, in most cases, where in the initial part of their journeys they were being told that this is not going to work, why are you wasting your time, right? And if they would have listened to even that one voice, then there could have been a possibility that venture or that entrepreneur today might not have been known for the same entrepreneurial journey. So keeping that in mind, that's where the agency bit, you being in control, you having proper research, proper knowledge from different sources, and also diversify your mentorship. Maybe why have only one when there are so many out there in the world who can guide you? Have a couple of them. See what works for you. Maybe one point from one is really amazing, and another point from another is very really important. And third bit is, which I think I've touched a little bit earlier, that also make sure that you set smaller goals for yourself, that what is that impact you want to visualize. Because sometimes you start by saying, I want to address the problem of climate change, but climate change is a huge problem, right? So you need to put milestones for yourself, that from a year from now, this is what I want to achieve. Maybe I want to reduce carbon footprint of my community or my society or whatever, and I'm just talking about one example, but it'll be different kind of impact metrics in different ventures. So also realizing and making sure that you are achieving them gives you a certain bit of confidence and power that what you attempted on is leading to. It's like all of us have, I think, in some sense, played the video games, right? There are different stages. We win, we get confidence, then we get power, next stage, and so on and so forth. Same as entrepreneurial journey. I think we need to get that little confidence, little energy, little kick out of that journey, and enjoy it at the end of the day. Because being an entrepreneurial mindset or a person shouldn't be a task. It just should be a way of being, Because as I said, even all three organizations who are talking in this, Ashoka, Skiller, and Mash, are looking for entrepreneurial people, right? So then what eventually we are giving a message to all of you is that the world is going to need entrepreneurial mindset people. So the more comfortable you be at it, the better chances that you will have more happy and satisfying life. And I think as long as we have a happy life, shouldn't that be the uh, bigger goal and purpose? Now I'm sounding like what Megha will call as gyan, but yes, I think that will be a good place where if everyone is happy.
Yes, Yashveer, and I think some very. I would say I think I was completely into what you were sharing. Especially from those different perspectives, and because we have limited time and a lot to cover in the Q&A, and I can see we would love to just one last question that I have for both of you, and then we'll directly jump on to the questions that I'm getting from the audience, because I can see there's a lot of eagerness. So we'll ask them to just go ahead and ask you those questions directly. So last thing, Yashveer and Megha, I want to ask from both of you that are there any programmatic opportunities or platforms that exist, especially for our young audience today, that they can go look up to, learn more about these skills, and get some tools to practice? If you could share some things that maybe Ashoka or someone else might be doing, or maybe you might be doing Mega at Leap, or maybe something in the ecosystem that you could recommend. This is something we would love to know about that. So, Megha, we would love to hear from you first, and then we'll come to you, Yashvi.
I think this one, Yashveer, you should go. You're an expert on this, I'm sure.
Anyone, whoever wants to take it first.
No, thank you, Megha. Thank you for the consideration. So no, so I think there are. I think today I would say there are more platforms. So there could be a difficulty in choosing where should you go, because I think seems like everyone is talking about skills and what are the skills and so on and so forth. So maybe if I am allowed, I would like to change it to saying, okay, what sort of communities I could be part of, where I think maybe I can learn some of these skills. Because one part of it is the more academics of it, which is maybe a short course or a short engagement. And I'm sure there are many, a lot of our Ashoka fellows also run a lot of programs online, and I could share those details through email later on as a list, where they can learn those skills. But I think more important question to be asked specifically in this entrepreneurial journey is where can they find the right community, and what sort of. So for instance, if you are a teenager, then Ashoka, our young changemaker community, I feel like they collaborate a lot, and it has created a good network in some sense amongst them. And more than Ashoka supporting them, I think it's the network which helps them much more regularly and for more longer term, because you are building those alliances and those bonds for life. So that's one bit. The second, I think I would also urge is that there are a lot of organizations who are doing these citywide engagements. MASH is one. I know World Economic Forum Global Shaper does a lot of engagement. Then there are organizations like Acumen who have smaller networks of, depending on how where you are as an entrepreneur. Then I think nowadays a lot of, I think, good schools like Tata Institute of Social Science, and I know someone was here in the audience. IIM Bangalore, they have a strong incubating program. Specifically, I think IIM Bangalore runs a very good program for female entrepreneurs. They provide some seed funding and support. So I think all our upcoming female entrepreneurs need to look at that, and I'm sure the community is also great. So I think the question to be asked is, which communities can I be part of, depending on what stage. And if you are at a very mature stage, then maybe something like Ashoka Fellowship, and there are more fellowships which are coming nowadays. A lot of ecosystem building organizations are doing. But in the interest of this audience, I would just limit by saying, look for which are the opportunities. I would again request follow MASH project. They broadcast a lot of these opportunities. So I think, Prabhu, maybe more than me and Megha, isn't it this your day job to broadcast these opportunities to young people where they can learn about entrepreneurial skills? So in short, just to summarize, look for these different platforms. Always keep looking for key and be that curious soul, always trying to find build alliances. And once you become part of one network, then I think in some sense we are so connected nowadays that you start becoming part of different networks. And then I think if your idea has that energy and that leverage, then a lot of people will come forward to support you. So that's where I will rest my comments. But over to Megha and then Prabhu maybe.
No, I think
Sure.
you've covered it. And like you said, Yashveer, I think between you and Prabhu, you'll have this covered. We at Leap, of course, have a lot of programs that we run. And offline, I can tell everyone here that if any one of you is interested in having a conversation, and to the extent that me and my team can mentor any of you or even have just conversations with you, of course, more than happy to do that.
Right. Thanks, Megha, and thanks, Yashveer, for sharing some opportunities, and also to share with all of you that alongside the beginner's guide series that we are doing, there are a lot of other programs that even UNDP is running. They're running a movers workshop parallelly, so you can check UNDP in India's social media handles and get to know about some of these programs where you can be a part of, and even communities. And I'm getting more questions also, Yashveer, from the chat, but someone asks that, if you could help understand how can one be a part of the Young Changemakers program that you're running, and what kind of support that can you extend, especially if someone's starting early in their lives.
So I can do a pitch, but what I would say is there is a website called ashoka.org. Just Google Ashoka Young Changemaker Program. I think it will have. So of course, one is the normal application. So first apply, and then there is a series of steps to get become a young change maker. But otherwise, I think we also do a lot of community building events at a school level and with different institutions. So we can also plug some of that. So I would say just go on the website or write to me, and then maybe I can share more details on that, because I think just in the interest of the time, maybe I might not want to take a lot of time just to share what are the steps and the selection process and so on and so forth.
Sure. And I think let's now quickly get to the audience. And I can see that a lot of people want to ask questions. So instead of me asking questions, we just quickly, I'll ask every, one by one to all of you that you can unmute and ask question. We'll try and cover as many as we can. But in case if we are not able to, we'll try and do it offline for you as well. So I think I'm getting a message from Shri. She wants to ask something. So Shri, please feel free to go ahead, unmute yourself and ask your question directly to Yashveer or Megha. And in case if you're finding difficult, if you're not being able to mute, I can ask that question for you as well. uh, no problem, we'll come back to it. So yeah, so in the meanwhile, we have one more questions. We'll come back to Shri. Let us know once you're ready. uh, in the meanwhile, I think Shivam has asked a very interesting question, Megha and Yashveer, that if you could recommend some, I would say, social entrepreneurs, or what some books that people can read, or what are some of them that you would recommend them to, learn more about this whole thing from. What would be your suggestions, recommendations in that?
So I can go first, because maybe I will recommend one, and Megha can recommend more in number. But I think there's this book called How to Change the World, which has stories of a lot of Ashoka fellows and social entrepreneurs, um, written by this gentleman called David Bonbright. So maybe that's what I would recommend, because that's my first book which I had read, and that's when I had heard about Ashoka, because it also mentions Ashoka's contribution to the field of social entrepreneurship. So that's a very interesting book I would recommend for anyone who is just beginning to, because I also send some of these questions around who is a social entrepreneur and what kind of journeys, what kind of ideas. So if you read that book, I think you will get some of the answers. And then, of course, you can research more and get connected to some of those.
Sure. Megha, do you have anything that you would recommend from your?
I have a couple, yeah. One is actually something that my one of my team members recommended today. He said that if anybody wants to get into entrepreneurship, this is some book he felt is really, really good. Something called Blitzscaling. I'll type it on the chat as well for everyone, so you can have it. there was one which I read a few years ago, which really made a huge impact on me. Personally, it was called The Hard Thing About Hard Things. It is the story of an entrepreneur. It's about all the different things you have to kind of brace yourself for when you are going in for entrepreneurship. And if I may, I think one of you asked a question on the chat about, I think Nilesh, you did, about we've been hearing about all the good things about being a social entrepreneur. What are some of the downsides and negatives? So Prabhu, if it's okay with that, I'd love to connect this to answering that question.
Sure, please go ahead.
Yeah. There are a lot of things, Nilesh, that make it really hard. But I think a couple of things which you should keep in mind before you decide to go down this journey is that, one, think about any entrepreneurship model, right? You need a business model, which means that somebody pays for the solution that you develop. One of the biggest challenges with social entrepreneurship is the fact that in most cases, your beneficiary is also your customer. And if it's really social enterprise, then most of your beneficiaries actually don't have a lot of payment capacity. They don't have huge pockets. They mostly come from backgrounds which make it difficult for them to have any disposable income. So I think the first thing is that you have to be mentally prepared to take a little more time and give yourself a little more time to find a business model that works. And sometimes that becomes very difficult and very frustrating. So I think that's one thing you should be mentally prepared for, a longer cycle and a difficult journey to finding a market supported solution. The second is honestly just the patience of it, because it's a tough business. Every day you deal with very real problems. Sometimes it really takes a toll on you emotionally. And you have to believe in what you're doing so much, because it's a slow burn. And every day, like sometimes my team and I joke that for 10 steps that we take forward, we take 3 back or 4 back every damn day. And that's exhausting on some days. So the negatives are that you have to know that you're signing up for something that's difficult, that it may take longer than you would like. Sometimes making the money is a little difficult. Having said that, and I know that a lot of people talk about the pros, but I've fallen on my face at least 1,000,000 times in the last 7 years. But I can promise you that every bit is worth it. Because when you talk to your beneficiaries and your customers and you see that the small work that you've done has managed to make a dent in their lives, and you've gotten a chance to be a part of that journey, that feeling is the best feeling in the world. So if you have an idea and a problem that you want to solve, I would greatly encourage that you go for it. But yes, don't be romantic about it. It's a long slog. And the third maybe thing that's not so great is the fact that you sign up for something because you have passion for that problem. But as a CEO, you have to do everything, which means that you just don't have the luxury of picking and choosing what you have to do, which means that sometimes you do things which you don't enjoy or you don't innately draw a lot of energy from. So yeah, maybe those are the things that are hard or the negatives of being a social entrepreneur. And if you read this book, I think there are lots of interesting things that you can learn from that as well.
Right. Thanks, Megha. I think those are I completely agree with you, because even at MASH, after all these years, there are days when we also find it difficult to get going, but we all find our way and keep going in that direction. So I think that really helps, and I just allow Shri to kind of ask her question, and then Nafisa will come to you.
Hello, am I audible now?
Yes.
Yes, Shri, you are. Please go ahead.
So thankful to Prabhu sir, and this was a very wonderful webinar that I had been attending. I guess there are exactly like what Yashveer sir said, that there's so many out there happening every day, and I think this is one of the best that I've actually heard. There were actually a lot of questions owing to the fact that I so-called started these NGOs lately, and I think I have not gone into any training for probably volunteerism or even startup for that matter. But a lot of people tell me that you must have a training, you have this specific skill set, probably managing finance or maybe something like a business management. I do not have that background. So does one actually need that? That's probably my first question.
Maybe I can take a stab at that, Yashveer, or do you want to go first?
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Okay, Sri, to answer your question, I don't think you need everything before you start something. It's all right if you know some things and you don't know other things. Having said that, a basic understanding of your numbers, a basic understanding of the money and the finance is absolutely critical. I would not recommend that you don't educate yourself on that at all. You don't need to be formally educated or trained to do that. There are ways in which you can learn that. Like I said, you could find somebody, maybe your first team member could be somebody who understands finance. So between the two of you, you have things to understand. So I think my instinct is, no, you don't need to know everything very well before you go. But as a person who's running an enterprise, I think it's important to not take finance lightly. I think it's important to have a plan in your mind and try and understand the math of it as well. That's my opinion.
Thanks, Megha, for answering that. And Yashveer, you want to add something?
Yeah, very quickly I can add just to extend that point. So, Shri, the whole point is that you learn or pick something on the need basis.
Yeah.
So there will never be a time where you will know everything about the whole organization running. There will always be you need people, and at some point in time, of course, you can afford. But initially, also, I think, for instance, if you were to initially just design your venture, if you Google on internet, okay, different kind of business plans, there will be hundreds of templates which will tell you, okay, this is how you build your financial model, this, that, and all that, right? So my sense is that whatever you can pick by your own research and as you need them, try doing that. Because I also sense a lot of people keep waiting that, okay, I am not formally trained to be a social entrepreneur, I am not formally trained to be a entrepreneur. But if you look at all the successful entrepreneurs, I don't think they have any formal training of entrepreneurship. In fact, in many cases, I think they drop out of even their normal educational programs, right? And I'm talking about specifically the younger lot who start. So do you need to know everything? No. But do you need to have certain skills, certain holistic viewpoint and understanding? Of course, yes. But that's out there. So you search for it. If you can't find, then you reach out to someone saying, hey, I'm trying to build this, I couldn't get some of these answers, or I'm stuck here, can you help me, guide me? And that's where the whole point of mentorship, because again, mentors or allies are going to help you on the challenges you are struggling with. Then someone can say, okay, do this quick short course and you will get a good hang of it, then you go for it. But if you keep waiting, let me get finance training also, let me get team building training also, let me get this, there will never be a day where you will comfortable say, now I know aram say everything and I can be an entrepreneur. That utopian, I think, stage, at least entrepreneurs do not have the privilege of. So please do not worry too much about it.
I couldn't agree more. I've been doing this for 8 years and I feel like there are a dozen things every day I realize I don't know, Shri. So get started. If you believe in something, get started.
I think the Nike's tagline, just do it.
Yes, yes. And I think we have Nafisa also wanting to ask questions. So if you could just allow Nafisa to just ask her question, please. And just, sorry,
yes,
Nafisa, please
can
go
I
ahead.
ask questions, sir?
Please
Yeah.
go ahead, please.
Yes. So, ma'am, talk about a lot of things is going to help us. But the thing I want to ask is that during this entrepreneurship or when we start, can you please suggest some ways in, especially in rural areas, like as we have seen, I am a volunteer and I have been active, but here we have seen that mobilizing people is very much tough task. Even if when we are providing something, I mean, to the beneficiary, they are still not aware and not so much interested of taking something at a, like, if we give them service or if we try to aware them, they are still not interested. So how can we stand as an entrepreneur here? Like, also when we talk about financing, this will be more tougher task. So can you please suggest some ways of mobilizing people, especially in rural areas? Yes, ma'am.
Nafisa, thank you for your question. And it's really clear that you're working on the ground, which is why you have been able to come with this insight. It's one of the biggest challenges of social entrepreneurship is, awareness generation. And the minute as a business, when you also have to start generating serious awareness for your product and your offering or your services, it's when social entrepreneurship becomes extremely difficult. A couple of things that I have in my mind tangibly that you could do. One is get in touch with local influencers. So in every village, there will be like a district magistrate kind of an office, and the local office is there, the panchayats, certain men and women who are really good in terms of local influencing. They've become role models for the village, and everybody, like they are the trusted in advisors in that village. You probably should get in touch with a couple of them and get them on what we used to call in Leap Skills, my organization, local advisory boards. So in each area you're trying to work in, potentially try and find these local influencers who can really collaborate with you and bring in people to you. Because in the absence of that, it becomes very difficult to be able to, convince hundreds of people that what you're doing brings value. So I would suggest you start with that. The second is that once you get your first 5, 7, 10 beneficiaries, really make them your spokespeople. Which is invest a lot in them, make them a part of your organization in the sense that they feel a sense of belonging and ownership of the work you're doing. So they go out there and become your champions. These are two things I can think of, Nafisa. I'm hoping that helps. We've done both these things in a lot of the small towns and villages we've worked in, and it really helps to do that. And other than that, Nafisa, I run a not-for-profit called India and Bharat Together. And I would be happy to put you in touch with my team there. They're fantastic, and they're doing some fantastic work in rural Uttarakhand. So if you want some insights on how they've been able to engage with people, I'd be more than happy to connect you with them too.
Thanks, Megha.
Sure, ma'am. Sure.
Thanks. And I would just request everyone else if we can take one more question. So just please feel free to raise your hand, and our team would kind of allow you to ask a question. So in the interest of time, we'll take one last question for the day. Okay. So sorry, Shri, but because we are already limited by, and I'm getting a lot of requests, so we'll have to wait. We'll try and answer all your questions offline. But if anyone else would like to ask a question, please feel free. And I can see also that Anjali's also asked a question. So maybe Anjali, you could quickly raise a hand. My team will quickly allow you to ask your question.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Hello, ma'am. Megha, ma'am, Yashveer, sir. Sir, actually, and ma'am, presently I am doing an internship in CRY, and there I have given a task of doing crowdfunding. And previously I haven't done anything related to crowdfunding. But one thing I want to ask you that how can I influence uh, all the people that yeah, whatever I'm doing related to the organization is related to some social issues. So I don't know how to influence those people for crowdfunding. So can you please suggest it that how can I do this? It's a very complicated type of task which I am unable to do this.
Yashveer, do you want to take a stab? Do you want me to take a stab?
I think I can go with either, but Megha will. I'll follow your lead, so please go ahead, and then I can.
Sure, I'll take a stab. Anjali, crowdfunding is extremely tricky. It's also extremely powerful if done right. In the past, even in our enterprises, we've tried crowdfunding campaigns a few times. And I think a couple of things really help. One is storytelling. Like I was answering, I think Pele also in one of the skill sets wala questions. You have to find a way of putting your story out there, because what do people respond to? Yeah, like they respond to a raw emotion, right? So if they feel that the 500 rupees or the 1,000 rupees or the 2,000 rupees they'll give you really goes and changes someone's life, and they feel that sense of, contributing, I think that's when people go ahead and put money in crowdfunding. So you'll have to, I suggest, coming up with ways to tell a story. People do that sometimes very effectively through making a solid video. And those videos don't need to be expensive, Anjali. It can be made on your phone. But the idea is tell an honest story, because everybody sees honesty. If I feel what you're feeling is that's the only way you'll get me to do something for you, right? So that honesty in your approach has to come through. So you can get testimonials, you can get videos, you can organize some sort of an open session where you say that we'll answer whatever questions you have to do it. And then there are all these forums which if you reach out to me, Anjali, offline, I can tell you about some of the forums which help you do crowdfunding as well. And I'm sure, Prabhu, you can also really, suggest certain forums and platforms where crowdfunding can be done. But Anjali, I think the winning and losing in crowdfunding is the honesty of the story.
Yes, ma'am. Of course, it is my first time that I am doing crowdfunding. But one thing, ma'am, you have told me that storytelling is very influential. I have done this about it, storytelling. But one thing I don't know that how there are so many fake things going on at present time, and how the people can start believing that whatever organization in which you are doing, is it doing the right thing, or is it legal type? The people not capable to understand that all the organization which are working for specific purposes or for the social causes, they are legal, or they are not doing any fake type of thing. So how can I convince other people for this? This is the very typical thing for me.
Sure. Prabhu, do I have the time to try and answer this in a minute?
So, Megha, I think we are already completely out of time.
That's what I thought.
If you could quickly do it under 60, that's fine. But otherwise, we can kind of take it offline.
No,
as
sure.
well.
So Anjali, I would just reach out to me offline anyway, and I'll help you to the extent that I can with the team. But I think maybe get credible platforms and credible influencers to share what you're saying. The minute it comes from a credible voice, that first level of concern goes away. So practically speaking, find a couple of credible platforms and a couple of people, say on LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook, who are credible, who have serious followers, and get them to share it.
Right. Thanks, Megha. Thank you for that insight. And I think that was very relevant. So I think we still have a lot of questions, but I think we are completely out of time. So what we will do is that we will kind of compile these questions and send it to both of you offline, and we'll try and facilitate that after this session. But I think these were some very good, insights and interesting conversations that came out. And I can see it in the chat window that, I think even all our audience is also finding it extremely relevant and helpful. So thank you so much, Yashveer and Megha, both of you, for taking out time and for doing this session with us and for sharing your experience and insights with us. So yeah, so with that, I think before I bring the session to an end, I would just like to add one last thing as well, that a lot of people are also asking that how can they kind of connect with speakers, or how can they connect with more opportunities. So, and especially some of you also asked it, how can you connect with us at MASH. So just in case if you have any support that you need while starting your own enterprise, or even if you're at an idea stage and you're finding difficulty in maybe bringing a mentor, or maybe finding right programs, so we will be very happy to help you. And I'm just sharing the ID in the chat window, and you can just reach out here, and we will just share it. We'll try and facilitate that for you. We also, just as an opportunity, because I just realized I've just launched a program called Skills to Serve. So if you're looking to work, especially in the social sector, on issues, and you want dedicated training and support, my colleagues just posted a link, so you can also refer to that. So with that, I kind of we come to an end for the session today. And just as also to mention before I forget, that there are a lot more programmatic opportunities that even UNDP is bringing with Youth Collab, and there are a lot newer programs that are going to come. So please, follow the social media handles, stay updated with the social media handles of UNDP in India, and even MASH for that matter, and we'll try and bring the best of the opportunities to you. Um, then we can. But Yashveer and Megha, thank you so much. And we'll just quickly take a quick picture. Although we would have loved to take it with everyone's cameras on, but I understand it's technologically sometimes gets difficult. So we'd love to do that. And then we'll quickly move to the feedback. So towards the end of the session, a feedback form will also pop up to all the participants. So we'll need your honest feedback for us. And this is really important for us to bring our experience even better. So please do not leave, and just stay with us for one more minute and share your feedback with us. uh, just to also mention before we end, we have a session also coming tomorrow, which is around understanding the entrepreneurship ecosystem in India. So today you learned a bit about what are the skills and what are some of the aspects of being a social entrepreneur and how can you bring that to practice. Tomorrow's session is more going to be about that as a sector and as a network or a community at large, what is the support that is available to you, that if you are starting something or if you're in your early stage, that you can leverage. What are some of the mentorship opportunities, what are some of the institutional opportunities that exist for you. So please do stay with us and join us for the session tomorrow as well. And we will see that how can we bring the most value to you. So thank you so much, everyone, and